The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark space between stars. It was bigger than most moons and had lights that could be seen from very far away. This was where the most powerful beings in the galaxy met to make decisions about other worlds and their people. Inside the main meeting hall, 3 different types of aliens sat around a huge table made of crystal. The hall was so big that their voices echoed when they spoke. The air smelled like metal and strange chemicals that humans had never smelled before. Admiral Crix was the first to speak. He was a Vorthack, which meant he looked like a giant lizard that walked on 2 legs. His skin was dark green and covered in hard scales. His yellow eyes were cold and mean. Sharp teeth filled his mouth when he opened it to talk. The Vorthack were known throughout the galaxy as the strongest fighters and the cruelest rulers. "This new species is a waste of our time," Admiral Crix said, his voice deep and rough. "Look at these reports. They call themselves humans. They are weak creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. They don't even have scales or claws to protect themselves." Commander Thex nodded in agreement. She was a Zephyrian, which meant she looked like a giant insect. Her body was covered in hard, shiny black armor. She had 4 arms and large compound eyes that could see in all directions at once. 2 long antennas moved on top of her head as she thought. The Zephyrians were known for their perfect teamwork and their ability to think as one group mind. "The humans live for less than 100 years, Commander Thex said, her voice making a buzzing sound. "Most intelligent species live for thousands of years. How can such short-lived creatures ever become wise enough to be dangerous?" The 3rd alien at the table was different from the others. It looked like it was made of living crystal that changed colors when it moved. This was an ethereal, and they were known for their powerful mental abilities. They could read minds and control thoughts. The ethereal's name was Lord Vex, and when it spoke, its voice seemed to come from inside the heads of the other aliens. "I have looked into their minds from far away," Lord Vex said, without moving its crystal mouth. "They are full of fear and doubt. They fight each other over small pieces of land and simple resources. They cannot even work together on their own planet. How could they ever challenge us?" Admiral Crix pulled up a hologram that showed the planet Earth. It was a small blue and green world that looked very ordinary compared to the huge metal planets and crystal worlds that the aliens came from. "Their technology is thousands of years behind ours," Admiral Crix continued. "They just learned how to leave their planet a few decades ago. We have been traveling between stars for millions of years. They use primitive rockets while we bend space itself to travel." The 3 aliens laughed, which sounded terrible. Admiral Crix made a sound like an angry snake. Commander Thex's laugh buzzed like angry wasps. Lord Vex made no sound, but the others felt amusement in their minds that felt cold and mean. "So why are we even talking about them?" asked Commander Thex. "Usually, we just send one ship to new worlds and they surrender immediately when they see our power. Because," said Lord Vex, "some of our scout ships sent back strange reports before they stopped responding. They said the humans were doing something unexpected." Admiral Crix waved his clawed hand in the air. "Those scouts were probably destroyed by some natural disaster. These humans probably don't even know we exist yet. When we show them our ships, they will fall down and worship us like all the others do." For millions of years, the 3 species had ruled the galaxy together. The Vorthack used their strength to crush any resistance. The Zephyrians used their perfect teamwork to control large areas of space. The Ethereals used their mental powers to make other species want to obey them. No one had ever been able to stand against all 3 of them working together. "I think we should send the usual integration fleet," said Admiral Crix. 50 ships should be more than enough. We will give them the standard ultimatum. Join us willingly or be forced to join us." "Agreed," buzzed Commander Thex. "I will lead the fleet myself. It should take no more than a few days to make them surrender." "Wait," said Lord Vex. "What were these strange reports that our scouts sent back?" Admiral Crix looked at his datapad. "Something about humans forming partnerships with other creatures on their planet. The scouts said they saw humans working together with animals in ways they had never seen before." "Animals?" Commander Thex laughed again. "They work with unintelligent beasts. That proves how primitive they are. Only the weakest species need help from creatures that cannot even think properly. Exactly, said Admiral Crix. Any species that needs animals to help them is clearly not advanced enough to be dangerous. We will treat them the same way we treat all primitive worlds. They will mine resources for us and serve as workers on our projects. Lord Vex seemed to think about this for a moment. Its crystal body changed from blue to purple as it considered the information. There is something else, Lord Vex said slowly. The scouts reported that some of these animals showed no fear when they saw our technology. They attacked our drones instead of running away. Impossible, said Admiral Crix. Every creature in the galaxy knows to fear superior power when they see it. Even the smallest insects run away from our ships. Perhaps these Earth animals are too stupid to understand danger, suggested Commander Thex. That would make sense if they work with humans. Stupid creatures working with stupid creatures. The three aliens agreed that humans were no threat at all. They had seen thousands of species surrender when faced with their advanced technology and superior power. Some species tried to fight at first, but they always gave up when they realized how outmatched they were. Commander Thex will take 50 ships to Earth, Admiral Crix decided. Give the humans 72 hours to surrender. When they see our power, they will beg to serve us. Then we will put them to work in the mines like all the other primitive species. It will be done, said Commander Thex. I will send word when the humans have surrendered. This should be the easiest conquest in our history. Far away from the space station, on a small blue planet, a man named Jake Carter was working in the hot African sun. He did not know that aliens existed. He did not know that 50 warships were about to come to his world. He was just trying to understand the behavior of one of Earth's most fearless creatures. And that creature was about to change the entire galaxy. Jake Carter wiped the sweat from his face as he watched Brutus through his binoculars. The honey badger was doing what honey badgers do best, completely ignoring danger and going after what he wanted. This time, Brutus was trying to get honey from a beehive that was 30 feet up in a dead tree. Jake had been studying animal behavior for 10 years, but he had never seen anything like Brutus. Most animals had some sense of fear or caution. They would run from bigger predators or avoid dangerous situations. But not Brutus. The honey badger seemed to think that everything in the world existed just for him to fight or eat. You crazy little guy, Jake said to himself. Don't you know those bees can hurt you? But Brutus did not care about the bees. He had already been stung dozens of times, but he kept climbing toward the hive. His thick skin and strong will made him almost impossible to stop when he wanted something. Jake's radio crackled to life. Jake, are you getting this? It was his research partner, Dr. Amy Foster, calling from the base camp 5 miles away. Getting what? Jake asked, still watching Brutus climb the tree. Turn on your emergency radio. Channel 7. You're not going to believe this. Jake switched to the emergency channel and heard something that made his blood turn cold. It was a voice, but it did not sound human. It was speaking English, but the words came out in a strange, buzzing sound. People of Earth, the voice said, this is Commander Thex of the Galactic Council Fleet. We are now in orbit around your planet. You have been selected for integration into our galactic civilization. Jake dropped his binoculars. He looked up at the clear blue sky, trying to see something that should not be there. At first, he saw nothing but clouds and the hot African sun. Then he saw them, small silver dots that were definitely not airplanes. Your species will have 72 hours to surrender your independence, the alien voice continued. Submit to council authority, and your people will be given work assignments in our mining operations. Refuse, and you will be forced to comply through military action. Jake's hand shook as he picked up his radio. Amy, are you hearing this? The whole world is hearing this, Jake. Every TV, radio, and internet connection on the planet is broadcasting this message. These things, whatever they are, they've taken over all our communications. Up in the tree, Brutus finally reached the beehive. The bees swarmed around him, stinging him over and over, but he just ignored them and started eating the honey. Jake watched in amazement. Even with aliens threatening the entire planet, his research partner was still being fearless and doing exactly what he wanted to do. Integration will begin immediately after your surrender. Commander Thex's voice continued. Council representatives will establish control centers in your major cities. Humans will be classified as a Class D species and assigned appropriate work duties. Jake grabbed his equipment and started running back toward his jeep. He needed to get to the base camp and figure out what was happening. But as he ran, he heard a new sound from above. It was a high-pitched whining noise like a giant mosquito. 3 small silver objects came down from the sky. They were about the size of basketballs, and they floated in the air without making any noise except for that strange whining. Jake realized these must be alien scout drones, checking out the area. Jake dug behind a large rock and tried to stay hidden. His heart was beating so fast he thought the aliens might hear it. The drone spread out and began scanning the area with beams of blue light. But Brutus had other ideas. The honey badger had finished eating the honey and was climbing down from a tree when he saw the flying objects. Instead of running away or hiding like any sensible creature would do, Brutus did what he always did when he saw something new and interesting. He attacked it. Jake watched in horror and amazement as Brutus leaped through the air and grabbed onto one of the alien drones. The machine was much bigger than Brutus, and it was made of some kind of advanced metal that gleamed in the sunlight. But Brutus did not care about any of that. The honey badger bit down on the drone with his powerful jaws. Sparks flew as his teeth scraped against the metal. The drone tried to shake him off by spinning and fly in circles, but Brutus held on tight. His claws scraped against the smooth surface, looking for something to grab onto. The other 2 drones immediately came to help their partner. They shot some kind of energy beams at Brutus, trying to make him let go. The beams hit him and made his first stand up, but Brutus just got angrier. He bit down harder and started making the angry chittering sound that honey badgers make when they are really mad. Jake could not believe what he was seeing. This small Earth animal was attacking advanced alien technology and winning. The drone that Brutus was holding onto was starting to smoke. Sparks were flying out of holes that his teeth and claws had made in its metal shell. "Brutus, get out of there!" Jake yelled, but he knew it was useless. Once a honey badger decided to fight something, nothing in the world could make it stop. The damaged drone started to fall toward the ground. Brutus rode it down like he was riding a bucking horse, still biting and clawing at it. When they hit the ground, the drone broke apart into dozens of pieces. Strange alien electronics scattered across the dirt. The other 2 drones backed away from Brutus. Jake could hardly believe it, but the advanced alien machine seemed to be afraid of his research partner. Brutus stood on top of the broken drone and made a loud, chittering sound. It was the sound honey badgers make when they want to fight and want everyone to know about it. He looked up at the other 2 drones like he was daring them to come down and fight him too. The remaining drones quickly flew back up into the sky and disappeared. Jake sat behind his rock for a long time, trying to understand what had just happened. A honey badger had just defeated alien technology that was probably thousands of years more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Jake's radio crackled again. This time it was not the alien commander speaking. It was news reporters from all over the world. Reports are coming in from multiple locations of small Earth animals attacking alien scout drones. One reporter was saying, in Africa, a honey badger was observed destroying an alien reconnaissance device. Similar incidents are being reported from North America, where wolverines and badgers have also attacked alien equipment. Jake looked over at Brutus, who was now sniffing around the broken pieces of the drone. The honey badger picked up a piece of alien metal in his mouth and started chewing on it like it was a toy. "Oh no, Brutus," Jake said. "What have you done?" But deep down, Jake felt something he had not expected to feel when aliens invaded his planet. He felt proud. His research partner, a small furry creature that most people thought was just a pest, had just shown the entire galaxy that Earth's creatures would not be pushed around. High above the planet, Commander Thex was getting reports from her scout teams. 3 drones had been destroyed by what her pilots described as small, fearless mammals that show no survival instinct. For the first time in her long military career, Commander Thex felt something she did not understand. It was a cold feeling in her chest that made her want to move away from Earth as quickly as possible. But she pushed the feeling away. They were just animals, after all. How dangerous could they be? President Lisa Hayes sat in the war room deep under the White House. The room was filled with generals, scientists, and advisors, all trying to figure out how to respond to the alien ultimatum. Large screens on the walls showed images of the alien ships floating in space above Earth like dark clouds. How many ships are we looking at? President Hayes asked General Mike Rodriguez, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Our satellites count 50 large vessels, General Rodriguez replied. Each one is about 5 miles long. We've never seen technology like this. They appeared out of nowhere, like they just materialized in space. Dr. Amy Foster stood at the back of the room. She had driven all night to get from the research station to Washington, D.C. Next to her was Jake Carter, who looked tired and confused. He was still wearing his dusty field clothes and boots. Why are we here? Jake asked quietly. We study animals, not aliens. Because, Dr. Foster whispered back, your honey badger just became famous around the world. The video of Brutus destroying that alien drone has been seen by every person on the planet. President Hayes turned to face the room. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 68 hours left to give these aliens our answer. What are our options? Secretary of Defense Paul. Wright stood up. Madam President, our weapons are useless against their technology. They have shields that our missiles cannot penetrate. Their ships can move faster than anything we have ever built. If we fight them, we will lose. Are you suggesting we surrender? Asked General Rodriguez. I'm suggesting we be realistic, Secretary Wright replied. Maybe serving in their minds is better than being wiped out completely. An angry murmur went through the room. President Hayes held up her hand for silence. Dr. Foster, the president said, your report mentions something about animal behavior that might be important. Can you explain? Dr. Foster walked to the front of the room. She was nervous about speaking to the most powerful people in the country, but she knew this was important. The aliens said they've been studying us, Dr. Foster began. They think they understand humans, but they don't understand our relationship with other animals. Most species in the galaxy probably evolved alone. They became intelligent and powerful by themselves. What makes humans different? President Hayes asked. Jake Carter stood up. He was even more nervous than Dr. Foster, but he spent years studying what made Earth's animals special. We form partnerships, Jake said. Humans have worked with other animals for thousands of years. Dogs help us hunt and guard our homes. Horses help us travel long distances. Birds help us find food. We don't just use animals, we work together with them. General Rodriguez frowned. What does that have to do with fighting aliens? Everything, Jake replied. These aliens have advanced technology, but they think in terms of individual power. They have never faced a species that fights alongside partners who literally cannot be scared into giving up. Jake walked over to one of the large screens and pulled up the video of Brutus attacking the alien drone. Everyone in the room had seen it before, but they watched it again anyway. This is Brutus, Jake said, pointing at the honey badger on the screen. He weighs 35 pounds. That alien drone probably cost more to build than our entire research budget. It has shields, weapons, and armor that we cannot even understand. But Brutus destroyed it anyway. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the president's science advisor. Because honey badgers don't understand fear the way other animals do, Jake explained. When they see a threat, they don't run away or try to negotiate. They attack. It doesn't matter if the threat is bigger, stronger, or more dangerous than they are. They will fight until they win or die. President Hayes leaned forward in her chair. Are you saying we should fight these aliens with honey badgers? I'm saying we should fight them the way honey badgers fight, Jake replied. Not with fear or hesitation, but with absolute determination. And we should do it together, humans and animals working as partners. Dr. Foster added, the aliens have been studying individual species for millions of years. They know how to defeat creatures that fight alone, but they have never encountered a species that forms true partnerships with other creatures, especially ones that show no fear. Secretary Wright shook his head. This is crazy. We're talking about fighting advanced aliens with pets. Not pets, Jake said firmly. Partners. There's a big difference. A pet obeys you because you feed it. A partner fights beside you because it chooses to. General Rodriguez was starting to understand. You're talking about building military units that combine human intelligence with animal abilities. Exactly, Dr. Foster said. Humans can plan and strategize. Animals like honey badgers, wolverines, and others can execute those plans without any fear or hesitation. Together, we might be able to do things that neither humans nor animals could do alone. President Hayes stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see people in the streets looking up at the sky, trying to spot the alien ships. The aliens gave us 3 options, she said. Surrender and become slaves. Fight with conventional weapons and be destroyed. Or find a third option that they never expected. She turned back to face the room. Dr. Foster, Mr. Carter, I'm authorizing you to develop this partnership program. You have unlimited resources and complete support. General Rodriguez, I want you to work with them to create these human-animal military units. Madam President, Secretary Wright protested, this is extremely dangerous. We have no idea if this will work. You're right, President Hayes replied. But we know that surrendering won't work for humanity in the long run. And we know that conventional warfare won't work against their technology. Sometimes the only choice is to try something that has never been tried before. Jake felt a mixture of excitement and terror. What about Brutus? He's not a trained military animal. He's just a research partner. Then he'll be our first research partner in the military, General Rodriguez said. If he can destroy alien technology with just his teeth and claws, imagine what he could do with human support and planning. Dr. Foster was already thinking about the logistics. We'll need to identify other fearless species. Wolverines, badgers, certain birds of prey. We'll need to find humans who can form real partnerships with these animals, not just train them. How long do you think you'll need? President Hayes asked. We have 66 hours, Jake replied. It will have to be enough. President Hayes nodded and turned to her communications director. Prepare a response to the aliens. Tell them that humanity rejects their ultimatum. We will not surrender our independence to anyone. What if they attack immediately? Asked Secretary Wright. Then we'll find out if honey badgers can fight in space. President Hayes replied with a grim smile. As the meeting broke up, Jake walked over to the window and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, 50 alien warships were waiting for humanity's answer. The aliens thought they knew everything about fear and power and conquest, but they had never met a honey badger, and they had never met humans who were willing to stand beside their fearless partners against impossible odds. Jake smiled. This was going to be the most important research project in human history. And somewhere in a cage at the research facility, Brutus was probably chewing on another piece of alien technology, completely unaware that he had just declared war on the galaxy. Commander Thex received humanity's response while floating in her command ship high above Earth. She read the message 3 times, unable to believe what she was seeing. They said no. She buzzed her second-in-command, Captain Zach. Yes, Commander. The humans have rejected our integration offer. They say they will maintain their independence. Commander Thex's 4 arms clicked against her command chair. In her 200 years of military service, she had never received a rejection from a primitive species. Usually, they saw the Council ships and immediately begged to surrender. Perhaps they did not understand our message, Captain Zach suggested. Their brains are very small compared to ours. No, Commander Thex replied, looking at the blue planet below. They understood. They are choosing to fight us. She opened a communication channel to the other ships in her fleet. All vessels, prepare for preliminary strikes. Target their largest cities. We will show them the price of defying the Galactic Council. 50 alien warships began to move into attack position. Each ship was armed with weapons that could turn mountains into dust and boil oceans. The aliens expected this demonstration to last only a few minutes before the humans panicked and surrendered. On Earth, Jake Carter stood in a military base in Colorado. Around him, hundreds of soldiers and scientists were working frantically to prepare for the attack they all knew was coming. The base had been turned into the headquarters for something called Partnership Protocol, the most unusual military program in human history. How many animal partners do we have ready? Asked General Rodriguez as he walked to the busy command center. Captain Amy Foster looked up from her computer. She was Jake's research partner, but now she wore a military uniform. 47 human-animal teams are operational. We have honey badgers, wolverines, several types of badgers, and some very aggressive birds. Is that enough? The general asked. Jake Carter walked over with Brutus riding on his shoulder. The honey badger had become used to all the attention and seemed to enjoy being the most famous animal in the world. It will have to be, Jake said. These animals can be trained like regular military units. They have to choose their human partners. It's about trust and understanding, not obedience. Sergeant Tony Walsh approached them with his Wolverine partner, Max, walking beside him. Wolverines were even more aggressive than honey badgers, and Max looked like he was ready to fight anything in the universe. My team is ready, Sergeant Walsh reported. Max has been testing our new equipment. He can carry a small pack with explosives and communications gear. What about armor? General Rodriguez asked. The animals refused to wear it, Captain Foster explained. We tried to give them protective gear, but they kept taking it off. Apparently, armor makes them feel restricted. Jake nodded. These animals have survived millions of years by being fast and fearless. Armor would slow them down and go against every instinct they have. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the base. Red lights flashed on every wall. A voice came over the loudspeaker. Incoming alien attack. All personnel take cover. Through the windows, they could see bright flashes of light in the sky. The alien ships were firing their weapons at major cities around the world. News reports were coming in from every continent: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. All were under attack. But something unexpected was happening. The aliens had expected their attack to cause mass panic and immediate surrender. Instead, they were seeing something they had never seen before. In New York, a team of human soldiers with Badger partners was actually advancing toward the alien attack ships that had landed in Central Park. The Badgers were running directly at the alien energy weapons, completely ignoring the deadly beams of light. When the humans saw their partners showing no fear, they stopped being afraid too. In London, Wolverine human teams were climbing on top of alien hover tanks, with the Wolverines using their claws to tear through armor that was supposed to be indestructible. The humans followed with explosives, hitting weak points that the animals had exposed. In Tokyo, trained birds of prey were carrying small bombs directly into alien aircraft, guided by human controllers on the ground. The birds showed no fear of the alien technology and could fly in patterns that the aliens could not predict. Commander Thex watched these reports with growing confusion and alarm. How are primitive mammals damaging our equipment? She demanded. The animals are not following any logical attack patterns, Captain Zack reported. They seem to have no survival instinct. They attack our strongest positions instead of looking for weaknesses. That makes no sense, Commander Thex buzzed. Every intelligent species looks for the safest way to achieve victory. Commander, said another officer, these creatures are not intelligent in the way we understand intelligence. They appear to be operating on pure aggression and fearlessness. Jake Carter's team was preparing to deploy when they received new orders. A group of alien soldiers had landed near a school in Denver. They were setting up some kind of control station and using human children as hostages to prevent military attacks. This is our chance, Jake told his team. The aliens think they understand human psychology. They think we won't attack if they threaten innocent people. Won't we? Asked Sergeant Walsh. We won't attack with explosives or heavy weapons, Jake replied. But Brutus doesn't care about hostages. He only cares about attacking the enemy. The human-animal teams moved toward the school using sewers and underground tunnels. The aliens had sensors that could detect human technology and human body heat, but they had never designed sensors to detect honey badgers and wolverines. When they were close enough, Jake gave Brutus a simple command. Go get them. Brutus leaped out of the tunnel and ran directly toward the alien command post. The aliens saw him coming and tried to shoot him with their energy weapons, but Brutus was too small and too fast. He zigzagged between their shots like he was playing a game. The alien soldiers were confused. They had been told that threatening human children would stop any attack. They had not been told what to do if a 35-pound mammal ignored their hostages and attacked them anyway. Brutus reached the first alien soldier and did what honey badgers do best. He climbed up the alien's leg, ignoring the creature's armor and weapons, and bit down on anything that looked important. The alien's weapon system started sparking and smoking. The other aliens turned their weapons toward Brutus, but this created the opening that Jake had been waiting for. With the aliens distracted by his partner, Jake and his human team could move in safely. More human-animal teams arrived at the scene. Wolverines attacked alien vehicles while their human partners planted explosives. Badgers crawled into alien equipment and chewed through important cables. Birds dropped small bombs on alien communications gear. Within an hour, the alien force at the school had been completely defeated. The human children were safe, and the aliens' control station was destroyed. Similar victories were being reported from around the world. Wherever human-animal partnerships were deployed, the aliens found themselves facing an enemy they could not understand or predict. Commander Thex received reports of losses that should have been impossible. Primitive Earth animals were destroying advanced council technology. Worse, the humans fighting alongside these animals seemed to have lost all sense of fear. "Commander," Captain Zack reported, "Admiral Crix is demanding an explanation. He says we should have conquered this planet by now." Commander Thex looked down at the blue world below her ship. For the first time in her military career, she was not sure she could complete her mission. "Tell Admiral Crix," she said slowly, "that we have encountered something new." And on Earth, Jake Carter scratched Brutus behind the ears while they watched news reports of alien defeats around the world. The honey badger looked up at his human partner and made a chittering sound that almost sounded like laughter. The aliens had thought they knew how to conquer worlds, but they had never tried to conquer a world where the defenders literally did not know how to give up. Lord Vex materialized on Commander Thex's flagship in a flash of crystal light. The ethereal was not happy, and everyone on the ship could feel its anger pressing against their minds like a cold weight. "Explain to me," Lord Vex's voice echoed in everyone's head, "how a primitive species is destroying council equipment with animals." Commander Thex's forearms trembled slightly. She had never seen an ethereal this angry before. "The humans have formed some kind of military partnership with fearless creatures from their planet. Our weapons are designed to fight intelligent enemies who will retreat when faced with superior force. These animals are not intelligent," Lord Vex replied. "They should be easy to control with fear." "That's the problem." Commander Thex buzzed nervously. "They don't seem to feel fear at all." Lord Vex's crystal body turned from blue to dark red. This was a very bad sign. Impossible. Every living creature fears death. Every creature has a survival instinct that can be exploited. "I will show you the reports," Commander Thex said, activating a holographic display. The hologram showed footage from the battle in Denver. They watched as Brutus ran directly toward heavily armed alien soldiers, ignoring energy weapons that could have vaporized him. They saw Wolverines climbing onto alien tanks, apparently not caring that they were massively outgunned. They watched birds flying straight into alien aircraft, carrying explosives that would kill them along with their targets. "This creature," Lord Vex said, pointing at Brutus, "it shows no fear response at all. How is this possible?" "Our scientists think these animals evolved differently than creatures on other worlds," Commander Thex explained. "This planet has many dangerous predators. Animals that show too much fear don't survive long enough to have babies." Lord Vex studied the footage more carefully. As an ethereal, it had powerful mental abilities that allowed it to sense the emotions and thoughts of other creatures. It had used these abilities to control dozens of species across the galaxy. "I will test this myself," Lord Vex announced. "Bring me one of these honey badgers." Within hours, a team of alien soldiers had captured Brutus during a battle in Australia. Jake Carter and his human team fought desperately to get their partner back, but the aliens managed to beam Brutus up to their ship using advanced teleportation technology. Brutus found himself in a large metal room filled with bright lights and strange alien equipment. Lord Vex stood in the center of the room, its crystal body shifting through different colors as it prepared to use its mental powers. "Small creature," Lord Vex said, its voice echoing the room, "I am going to show you fear." Lord Vex focused all of its psychic power on Brutus. It projected images of death and pain directly into the honey badger's mind. It showed Brutus being torn apart by giant predators. It made him feel like he was falling from a great height. It filled his mind with the terror of being buried alive. These mental attacks had worked on every creature Lord Vex had ever encountered. The strongest warriors had been reduced to whimpering, scared animals when faced with the ethereal's power. But Brutus just looked around the room, apparently bored. Then he noticed that Lord Vex's crystal body was making interesting sparkly lights. Brutus decided he wanted to bite the sparkly thing. "What?" Lord Vex gasped as Brutus ran toward it. The fear projection should be overwhelming its mind. Brutus leaped at Lord Vex and bit down on what he thought was the creature's leg. It turned out to be a section of living crystal that was very important to the ethereal's body structure. Lord Vex screamed, but not with its voice. The scream came directly from his mind and was felt by every creature on the ship. For the first time in millions of years, an ethereal was experiencing physical pain and genuine terror. "Get it off me!" Lord Vex shrieked, both out loud and telepathically. Alien soldiers rushed into the room, but they were afraid to shoot at Brutus because they might hit Lord Vex. They tried to grab the honey badger with their hands, but Brutus was too fast and too angry. He had decided that the crystal creature was his enemy, and nothing in the universe was going to change his mind. Brutus bit through several important sections of Lord Vex's crystal body. Cracks appeared in the ethereal structure, and bright light leaked out like blood. Lord Vex was experiencing something it had never felt before: the fear of being killed by a creature that could not be reasoned with or controlled. "It's immune to psychic attack." Lord Vex gasped. Its mind doesn't process fear the way other creatures do. Finally, the alien soldiers managed to trap Brutus in an energy cage, but the damage was done. Lord Vex was badly injured and deeply shaken. The most powerful psychic being in the Galactic Council had been defeated by a 35-pound mammal that didn't understand the word surrender. News of Lord Vex's defeat spread throughout the alien fleet within hours. Creatures that had served the Council for thousands of years began to whisper among themselves. If the mighty ethereals could be hurt by Earth animals, what did that mean for the rest of them? On Earth, Jake Carter was leading a rescue mission to get Brutus back. His team included Captain Amy Foster, Sergeant Tony Walsh with his Wolverine Max, and dozens of other human-animal partnerships. They had tracked the alien ship that was holding Brutus, and they were planning the most daring rescue mission in human history. The plan was simple: get close enough to the alien ship so that their animal partners could attack it directly. "Remember," Jake told his team as they approached the alien vessel and captured alien shuttles, "our partners don't understand impossible odds. If we act confident, they'll follow us anywhere." The shuttles docked with the alien ship. Immediately, wolverines, badgers, and other fearless creatures poured out of the human vehicles and began attacking everything in sight. The aliens had prepared for human military tactics, but they had no defense against animals that attacked their most heavily defended positions without any strategy or fear. Max the Wolverine found the ship's power core and began chewing through the main cables. A team of badgers discovered the weapon's control room and started destroying everything they could reach. Birds flew through the ventilation systems, carrying small explosives to critical locations. The alien crew panicked. They had never faced an enemy that completely ignored their superior technology and firepower. Some of them began to abandon their posts and flee toward the escape pods. Jake Carter found Brutus in the detention area, still trapped in the energy cage, but apparently unharmed. When Brutus saw his human partner, he made the happy chittering sound that honey badgers make when they see someone they like. "Miss me?" Jake asked as he figured out how to turn off the alien energy cage. Brutus jumped onto Jake's shoulder and immediately started looking around for something else to attack. He could smell alien creatures nearby, and he wanted to bite all of them. As the human-animal teams fought their way back to their shuttles, they passed Lord Vex in the medical bay. The ethereal was connected to dozens of healing machines, trying to repair the damage that Brutus had caused to its crystal body. Lord Vex looked up at Jake Carter with eyes that showed something no ethereal had ever felt before, genuine fear of another species. Your creature, Lord Vex whispered in Jake's mind. It cannot be controlled. It cannot be frightened. How do you live with something so dangerous? Jake looked down at Brutus, who was still riding on his shoulder and looking very pleased with himself. We don't control them, Jake replied. We're partners. There's a big difference. The rescue mission was a complete success. The human-animal teams escaped with Brutus and also managed to capture important alien technology and information about their military plans. But the real victory was psychological. Word spread throughout the galaxy that the mighty ethereals, beings of pure psychic power who had controlled thousands of species through fear, had been defeated by a small Earth mammal. On distant planets throughout the galaxy, creatures that had served the Council for generations began to ask themselves a question they had never asked before. What if we said no? And on the alien flagship, Commander Thex received a message that made her compound eyes widen in shock. 3 entire star systems had declared independence from the Galactic Council. They had heard about the fearless Earth animals and decided they wanted to be free. The honey badger revolution had begun. For the first time in millions of years, the Galactic Council was learning what it felt like to be afraid. Admiral Crix paced back and forth on the bridge of his massive warship. His claws left scratches in the metal floor as he walked. The Vordak Admiral had never been this angry in his 300-year military career. 3 star systems have rebelled, he growled at his officers. 3, and it's all because of one small planet full of soft mammals and their pets. Commander Thex's image appeared on the communication screen. She looked tired and defeated, very different from the confident officer who had left to conquer Earth just a few days ago. Admiral, she buzzed weakly, I must report another setback. The humans have rescued their honey badger and captured several of our ships. Lord Vex is still recovering from his injuries. Injuries? Admiral Crix roared. An ethereal was injured by an animal? The creature bit through Lord Vex's crystal structure. Commander Thex explained. Our medical team say he will recover, but he keeps saying things that don't make sense. He talked about pure fearlessness and minds without limits. Admiral Crix stopped pacing. In all his years of conquest, he had never heard of anything that could hurt an ethereal. These beings were made of living energy and crystal. They were supposed to be almost indestructible. That's impossible, Admiral Crix said. What kind of creature can harm a being of pure psychic energy? One that doesn't understand fear. Commander Thex replied, Admiral, I strongly recommend that we withdraw from Earth and try diplomatic contact instead of military force. Withdraw. Admiral Crix's voice rose to a roar that could be heard throughout his ship. The Vordak Empire has never withdrawn from any battle. We will show these humans and their animals what real power looks like. Admiral Crix turned to his tactical officer. Send word to the home worlds. I want the Death Guard here within 24 hours. All battalions. The Death Guard were the Vordak's most elite soldiers. Each one was over 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor that was harder than steel. They had conquered entire planets by themselves. Their weapons could melt through any known material, and their battle experience stretched back thousands of years. But Admiral Crix was not the only one escalating the conflict. The Zephyrian Collective had decided to send their hive mind shock troops, soldiers who could think and act as one perfect unit. An ethereal dominion, despite Lord Vex's injuries, was preparing to send their most powerful psychic warriors. On Earth, Jake Carter stood in the war room watching reports from around the planet. Human-animal partnerships were winning battles everywhere, but he could see that the aliens were preparing something much bigger. They're bringing in their best troops, General Rodriguez said grimly. Our satellites are detecting massive alien ships approaching from deep space. Captain Amy Foster looked up from her computer. How many ships? Over 200, the general replied. Each one is bigger than anything we've seen so far. Jake looked down at Brutus, who was sitting on the table eating alien technology that he had stolen during their rescue mission. The honey badger seemed completely unconcerned about the approaching alien armada. Maybe we should be scared, Jake said quietly. Are you scared? asked Sergeant Tony Walsh, who was feeding his Wolverine Max some of his military rations. Jake thought about it for a moment. You know what? No, I'm not scared. Brutus isn't scared, so why should I be? This was something the aliens had not expected. The humans were learning fearlessness from their animal partners. Soldiers who had been terrified of alien technology a few days ago were now running toward enemy positions because they had seen honey badgers and wolverines do it first. Dr. Sarah Kim, the president's science advisor, had been studying this phenomenon. It's remarkable, she told the group. Courage appears to be contagious. When humans see their animal partners showing no fear, they stop being afraid too. It's more than that, Jake replied. When you're fighting alongside a partner who will never abandon you, you become braver than you ever thought possible. The first wave of elite alien troops landed near Chicago. The Vordak Death Guard came down from the sky in massive dropships, expecting to face human military units that would retreat when they saw a superior force. Instead, they found something they had never encountered before. Ake Carter and Brutus were part of the first response team. They arrived at the landing site just as the alien dropships opened their doors. Out came creatures that looked like armored dinosaurs with advanced weapons and centuries of combat experience. Okay, Brutus, Jake said calmly. These guys look tougher than the last ones. Brutus looked at the 8-foot-tall alien warriors and made his thinking sound, a quiet chittering that honey badgers make when they're deciding what to attack first. Then he ran directly toward the largest, most heavily armed death guard in the group. The Vordak warrior raised his energy weapon, confident that no small creature could survive a direct hit. But Brutus was already zigzagging through the alien's legs, too fast and too small to hit with a weapon designed to destroy tanks. Jake followed his partner's example. If Brutus wasn't afraid of 8-foot-tall armored aliens, then neither was he. Jake ran toward the enemy position, using the confusion caused by Brutus to get close enough to plant explosives on the alien equipment. Other human-animal teams arrived at the battle. Wolverines attacked the aliens' heavy weapons while their human partners provided covering fire. Badgers crawled under alien vehicles and chewed through important parts. Birds dropped small bombs with precise accuracy that human technology could never match. But the most important thing was psychological. The Death Guard had expected to face enemies who would be intimidated by their size, armor, and reputation. Instead, they faced humans who acted like the battle was already won and animals who treated 8-foot-tall aliens the same way they would treat any other opponent. The commander of the Death Guard, a massive Vordak named General Torx, found himself in single combat with Brutus. The honey badger had climbed onto the alien's back and was trying to bite through his neck armor. General Torx had fought in hundreds of battles across the galaxy. He had defeated enemies with superior technology, greater numbers, and better tactics. But he had never fought an enemy who simply ignored all of his advantages and attacked anyway. What is wrong with this creature? General Torx roared as he tried to shake Brutus off his back. Why doesn't it retreat? Jake Carter heard the alien's question and decided to answer. Because he's a honey badger. Jake called out while planting explosives on another alien vehicle. Retreating isn't in his vocabulary. General Torx finally managed to grab Brutus and threw him away from his body. But instead of running away, Brutus landed on his feet, made an angry chittering sound, and immediately ran back to attack again. For the first time in his long military career, General Torx felt something he had not felt since he was a young soldier: the fear of losing a fight. Similar battles were happening all over Earth. The Zephyrian hive mind shock troops found that their perfect coordination was useless against enemies who attacked from every direction at once without any coordination at all. The ethereal psychic warriors discovered that their mental powers had no effect on creatures whose brains were wired for pure aggression. But the real shock came when news of these battles reached other parts of the galaxy. Creatures throughout the Council's empire were watching footage of small Earth animals defeating the most elite troops in galactic history. On a mining world called Kepler-7, a group of enslaved aliens saw a video of Brutus fighting General Torx. If a tiny creature like that can fight back, one of them whispered, maybe we can too. On the trade station at Proxima Hub, alien merchants who had been forced to pay tribute to the Council for centuries watched Wolverines attacking Zephyrian shock troops. Look how fearless they are, Another alien said. They don't care how big their enemies are. Revolution was spreading across the galaxy, and it all started with a honey badger who didn't know how to give up. Back on Earth, Jake Carter sat with Brutus after the battle in Chicago. The honey badger was exhausted but happy. He had bitten several alien soldiers and destroyed at least 3 pieces of advanced technology. You know what, buddy? Jake said, scratching Brutus behind the ears. I think we're winning this war. Brutus made a contented chittering sound. He didn't care about winning or losing wars. He just enjoyed fighting things that needed to be fought. And across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was learning that sometimes the smallest, most fearless hearts could shake the foundations of entire civilizations. Video spread across the galaxy faster than any news in galactic history. It showed a small Earth creature called a honey badger standing alone on a piece of broken alien technology, making angry chittering sounds, and an entire battalion of defeated Vorthack Death Guard. The footage had been captured by alien soldiers retreating from the battle in Chicago. They had sent it back to their command ships as a military report, but somehow it had leaked into the general galactic communication network. Now, billions of creatures across thousands of worlds were watching Brutus make his victory speech in honey badger language, and they were all thinking the same thing. If that tiny creature can stand up to the council, why can't we? On the mining world Kepler 7, a creature named Blix watched the video for the 20th time. Blix looked like a cross between a bear and a turtle, with thick fur and a hard shell on his back. His species, the Dalgri, had been enslaved by the council for over 1,000 years. Look at it, Blix said to his work partner, a Dalgri female named Terra. It's not even as big as my paw, but it defeated an entire squad of Death Guard. It's just an animal, Terra replied, but her voice was uncertain. Animals don't understand the consequences of fighting the council. Maybe that's why it won, Blix said thoughtfully. Maybe understanding the consequences is what makes us afraid to fight back. Similar conversations were happening on mining worlds, trade stations, and farming colonies throughout the galaxy. The council had ruled for millions of years by making sure everyone understood exactly what would happen to them if they rebelled. But the honey badger in the video clearly didn't care what would happen to it. On the luxury station Nexus Prime, Admiral Crix was receiving the worst reports of his military career. The rebellion was spreading faster than his ships could travel to stop it. 17 systems have declared independence in the last day, his intelligence officer reported. They're calling it the Honey Badger Revolution. That's ridiculous, Admiral Crix growled. They can't name a galactic rebellion after a small mammal. Actually, sir, they can, the intelligence officer replied nervously. The creature has become a symbol of fearless resistance. Rebel groups are using its image on their flags. Admiral Crix looked at the tactical display, showing the galaxy, red dots marked rebel systems, and there were far too many of them. The rebellion was spreading in all directions from Earth like a virus. How many ships do we have available to put down these rebellions? Admiral Crix asked. That's the problem, sir, the intelligence officer said. We have most of our fleet at Earth trying to defeat the humans and their animals. If we withdraw ships to fight the other rebels, the humans might launch a counterattack. And if we leave the rebels alone, they'll inspire even more systems to join them, Admiral Crix concluded grimly. On Earth, Jake Carter was learning about the galactic situation from captured alien communication equipment. He sat in the command center with Brutus on his lap, reading reports that seemed too good to be true. 43 star systems have rebelled against the Council, Captain Amy Foster reported. They're all saying they were inspired by our partnership with Earth animals. Specifically by Brutus, added General Rodriguez with a smile. That little guy has become the most famous animal in galactic history. Brutus looked up at the sound of his name. He had been chewing on a piece of alien electronics, but he paused to listen to the humans talking about him. Then he went back to chewing, apparently deciding that the conversation was less interesting than the alien technology. The aliens are an impossible situation, Dr. Sarah Kim explained. If they keep their ships here to fight us, the rebellion spreads. If they withdraw to fight the rebellion, we become stronger. Jake nodded, but he was thinking about something else. The real victory isn't military, he said. It's psychological. These aliens spent millions of years convincing everyone in the galaxy that resistance was hopeless. But when they see creatures that don't understand hopelessness, they remember that they can choose to fight back. Sergeant Tony Walsh entered the room with his Wolverine partner Max walking beside him. Both of them looked excited about something. "You need to see this," Tony said, activating a communication screen. "We're getting messages from rebel groups all over the galaxy. They want to learn about human-animal partnerships." The screen showed a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis. It was speaking in a language that the computer translated into English. "Greetings from a mantis rebellion of the Altair system," the creature said. "We have seen the videos of your fearless animals. Do you think such partnerships could work with our species? We have creatures on our world that show no fear, but we never thought to work with them as equals." Another message came from a system near the galactic core. This one showed creatures that looked like living trees. "The group collective wishes to join your alliance," the tree creature said. "We have symbiotic relationships with small creatures that live in our branches. They are very aggressive and protective. Perhaps we could learn from your example." Jake looked at all the messages pouring in from across the galaxy. Dozens of species were asking for help, advice, or just permission to join what they were calling the Partnership Alliance. "This is incredible," Jake said. "We started with one honey badger, and now we're inspiring partnerships across the entire galaxy." But the situation was about to get much more dangerous. Admiral Crix had made a decision that would change everything. "Prepare the Planet Destroyer," he told his weapons officer. The Planet Destroyer was the Council's most feared weapon. It was a massive ship with the ability to crack planets in half or boil away their atmospheres. It had only been used 3 times in galactic history, and each time it had ended rebellions immediately. "Sir," the weapons officer said carefully, "using the Planet Destroyer on Earth will kill all the humans and their animals. Will also destroy any technology or resources we might want to capture." "I don't care," Admiral Crix replied. "This rebellion is spreading too fast. If we don't stop it here, the entire galaxy will be in revolt within a year. Earth must be destroyed as an example to all the other rebels." The news of the Planet Destroyer's approach reached Earth within hours. Human and alien detection systems both confirmed that the massive weapon was moving toward their solar system. President Lisa Hayes called an emergency meeting of all world leaders. Jake Carter, Brutus, and the other partnership protocol teams were asked to attend via video link. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Hayes said, "we have approximately 72 hours before the alien Planet Destroyer reaches Earth. Our options are limited. We can try to evacuate as many people as possible, or we can prepare for a final battle." "What about the rebel systems?" asked the British Prime Minister. "Can they help us?" General Rodriguez shook his head. "They're all too far away, and most of them are still fighting their own battles against Council forces." Jake Carter looked down at Brutus, who was sitting calmly in his lap, apparently unconcerned about the approaching doomsday weapon. "There's a third option," Jake said quietly. "What's that?" President Hayes asked. Jake stood up, with Brutus riding on his shoulder. "We do what Brutus would do. We attack." "Attack a planet destroyer with honey badgers?" asked the German Chancellor in disbelief. "Attack it with the most fearless force in galactic history," Jake replied. "Us, humans and animals working together, with absolutely nothing left to lose." Captain Amy Foster was already pulling up tactical information. "The planet destroyer has to get close to Earth to use its main weapon. That means it will be within range of our captured alien shuttles." "You're talking about a suicide mission," General Rodriguez said. "No," Jake replied, scratching Brutus behind the ears. "I'm talking about a honey badger mission. We go in, we cause as much damage as possible, and we don't worry about the odds." Brutus made a chittering sound that almost sounded like agreement. Around the galaxy, rebel forces were watching and waiting to see what the humans would do. If Earth fell to the planet destroyer, the rebellion might collapse. But if somehow the humans and their fearless animals could win against impossible odds, the honey badger revolution would become unstoppable. And in his command center, Admiral Crix was about to learn the most important lesson in galactic history. Never threaten the home of a species that has learned fearlessness from honey badgers. Jake Carter floated in the pilot seat of a captured alien shuttle, looking out at the massive planet destroyer that filled his entire view. The ship was so big that it seemed like a metal moon, covered with weapons and armor that could destroy entire worlds. "Okay, Brutus," Jake said to his partner, who was strapped into a special harness next to him. "This is definitely the biggest thing you've ever tried to bite." Brutus looked out the window at the planet destroyer and made his thinking sound, the quiet chittering that meant he was deciding how to attack something. He seemed pleased that the humans had finally found him an enemy that was worthy of his attention. Behind Jake's shuttle were dozens of other captured alien ships, each one filled with human-animal partnerships. Captain Amy Foster was flying with a team of aggressive birds. Sergeant Tony Walsh had Max the Wolverine and 3 other Wolverines in his ship. Other shuttles carried badgers, more honey badgers, and even a few humans who had partnered with snapping turtles and angry geese. "All teams, this is Carter," Jake said into his radio. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy this thing completely. We just need to damage enough so it can't destroy Earth." "Understood," came Captain Foster's reply. "My birds are ready to deliver their packages." The packages were small explosive devices that the animals could carry to critical locations inside the planet destroyer. Human engineers had studied the captured alien technology and identified weak points in the massive ship's design. But the real weapon wasn't the explosives. It was a complete fearlessness of creatures that had no understanding of impossible odds. Admiral Crix stood on the bridge of the planet destroyer, watching the small Earth ships approach. He was confused by what he was seeing. "Why are they attacking us?" he asked his tactical officer. "They must know this ship can destroy their entire planet. Why don't they try to negotiate or surrender?" "Perhaps they don't understand the power of the planet destroyer," the tactical officer suggested. "Or perhaps," said a new voice, "they simply don't care." Admiral Crix turned to see Lord Vex materializing on his bridge. The ethereal's crystal body was still cracked from his encounter with Brutus, but he had insisted on coming to witness the final battle. "What do you mean?" Admiral Crix asked. "I have been studying the human-animal partnerships," Lord Vex explained. "The animals don't understand concepts like hopeless odds or certain death, and the humans have learned from them. They're not attacking because they think they can win. They're attacking because that's what they do." The first wave of Earth shuttles reached the planet destroyer's outer defenses. Massive laser cannons opened fire, trying to destroy the small ships before they could land. But the human pilots had learned to fly like their animal partners thought, with no fear and complete unpredictability. Jake Carter's shuttle spun and twisted through the laser fire, following no logical pattern. The alien gunners had been trained to predict where enemy ships would go based on tactical thinking. But Jake wasn't thinking tactically. He was thinking like Brutus would think. Go straight for the target, no matter what gets in the way. "Hang on, buddy," Jake told Brutus as their shuttle slammed into the planet destroyer's hull. "Time to do what we do best." The shuttle's doors opened and human-animal teams poured out onto the surface of the massive ship. Immediately, they began looking for ways to get inside. Brutus found an air vent and crawled inside without hesitation. Jake followed his partner into the dark tunnel, not knowing where it led but trusting that Brutus would find something important to attack. Throughout the ship, similar scenes were playing out. Wolverines were chewing through power cables while their human partners planted explosives on critical systems. Birds were flying through the ship's corridors, carrying bombs to the bridge and weapons control centers. Badgers were climbing into machinery and destroying everything they could reach. The alien crew panicked. They had been trained to fight enemy soldiers who followed military tactics and tried to minimize their own losses. They had no idea how to fight creatures that attacked the most dangerous areas of the ship first. Admiral Crix received damage reports that made no sense to him. "Sir, the engine room is under attack by a small mammal and a human carrying explosives," one report said. "The weapons control center has been invaded by flying creatures with bombs," said another. "A honey badger has entered the bridge-level ventilation system," said a third report. "It appears to be heading directly for the main computer core." "How is this possible?" Admiral Crix roared. "This ship has the strongest defenses in the galaxy. The defenses are designed to stop large enemy ships and organize military attacks," his tactical officer explained. They're not designed to stop individual animals who attack everything at once. Brutus emerged from the air vent in the planet destroyer's main computer room. The room was filled with alien technology that controlled the massive ship's weapons and navigation systems. Jake crawled out of the vent behind his partner. "Well, this looks important," he said, looking around at all the blinking lights and humming machinery. Brutus was already attacking the nearest computer console. He bit down on what looked like a main power coupling and started chewing through the alien wiring. Sparks flew, and alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Jake planted his explosives on the largest computer systems, while Brutus continued his systematic destruction of anything that looked electronic. The honey badger seemed particularly interested in the bright, shiny components that sparked when he bit them. "You know what, Brutus?" Jake said as he set the timers on his explosives. "I think we're actually going to win this." Brutus paused in his chewing to look at Jake. He made a chittering sound that seemed to say, "Of course we're going to win. Did you ever doubt it?" The explosions began throughout the planet destroyer. Small charges placed by human-animal teams destroyed critical systems all over the massive ship. The aliens had built their ship to survive attacks from other large ships, but they had never considered the possibility of dozens of small attacks happening simultaneously inside their vessel. Admiral Crix watched his tactical displays go dark one by one. The planet destroyer's main weapon was offline. The navigation system was destroyed. Even the life support was failing in several sections of the ship. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from human ships." "Surrender offers?" Admiral Crix was confused. "They're offering surrender?" "No, sir. They're offering to accept our surrender." For a moment, Admiral Crix couldn't understand what he had heard. A species that had discovered space travel less than a century ago was offering to accept the surrender of the most powerful military force in galactic history. "This is impossible," Admiral Crix said. But then he looked at his damage reports. The planet destroyer was crippled. His fleet was scattered across the galaxy fighting rebellions. And somewhere in his ship, a honey badger was probably still chewing on important electronics. "Sir," Lord Vex said quietly, "I believe we have lost." Admiral Crix looked at the Ethereal's damaged crystal body and realized that Lord Vex was right. They hadn't just lost a battle. They had lost their understanding of how the universe worked. For millions of years, the Galactic Council had ruled through fear and intimidation. They had convinced everyone that resistance was hopeless and submission was logical. But they had never encountered a species that didn't understand logic when it came to protecting their home. "Open a communication channel," Admiral Crix said slowly. Jake Carter's voice came through the speakers on the alien bridge. "This is Jake Carter of Earth. Are you ready to discuss terms?" "Terms?" Admiral Crix asked. "The terms of your withdrawal from Earth and all the other systems that have declared independence," Jake explained. "We're willing to let you leave peacefully if you agree never to come back." Admiral Crix looked around his damaged bridge. Half his officers were trying to repair systems that had been destroyed by small mammals. The other half were looking at him like they expected him to make a decision that would save what was left of their empire. "What about our authority over the galaxy?" Admiral Crix asked. "That's between you and them," Jake replied. "Earth doesn't want to rule anybody. We just want to be left alone to live our lives and work with our animal partners." But Jake was wrong about one thing. Earth's example had changed the galaxy forever. On worlds throughout the Council's former empire, creatures that had been slaves for generations were forming their own partnerships with fearless local animals. The mantis people of Altair had discovered that their world's equivalent of honey badgers made excellent partners for raids on Council facilities. The tree-like group collective had learned that the small, aggressive creatures living in their branches could help them fight off alien occupation forces. Throughout the galaxy, the age of the Galactic Council was ending. In its place was rising something new, a network of independent worlds connected by the idea that true partnership was stronger than any form of domination. 1 year later, Jake Carter sat in his old research station in Africa, watching Brutus hunt for honey in the same dead tree, where their adventure had begun. The world was very different now. Earth was part of something called the Partnership Alliance, a group of free worlds that shared knowledge and helped each other defend against anyone who tried to conquer them. The old Galactic Council still existed, but it controlled less than half the worlds it used to rule. The rest had declared independence, inspired by the example of humans and their fearless animal partners. You know what the funny thing is? Jake said to Dr. Amy Foster, who was visiting the research station with her new partner, a particularly aggressive African wild dog. "What's that?" Amy asked. "We never wanted to start a galactic revolution. We just wanted to study animal behavior." Brutus looked up from the beehive he was attacking and made a chittering sound that seemed to say, "Mission accomplished." And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds where creatures had learned that they didn't have to be afraid of bullies, other partnerships were forming. Other fearless hearts were deciding that some things were worth fighting for, no matter what the odds. The universe had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the smallest, most determined fighters can change the course of entire civilizations. And sometimes, all it takes to start a revolution is one honey badger who doesn't know the meaning of the word surrender.